few weeks ago at the dinner table, my 10-year-old, in the context of a bigger conversation, said, "Death brings meaning to life." And my 7-year-old, my wife and I just kind of looked at him startled, not because it didn't make sense in that conversation, but because it wasn't the sort of thing we expected to hear from the mouth of a 10-year-old. And my 10-year-old is usually pretty closed off about what he's thinking and how he's feeling, and suddenly comes out with something that I felt had a lot of depth to it, and as far as an insight, that death brings meaning to life. And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, if we just live forever, then it wouldn't really matter what we do today or tomorrow, because we've got many, many more days to come. But when we know that we're going to die, then today matters a lot more." From the mouths of babes, I was just amazed. Obviously, as his dad, I was just fascinated to see something like that coming out of his heart and mind. But it hit home for me too, because it really is true that death does bring meaning to life, doesn't it? Because this life will end someday, and we really don't know when. It could be today for me, for you, it could be tomorrow, or we could follow the statistical norm in our Western culture of living to a riper, older age of 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. And maybe many of us will, but none of us knows for sure. And the fact that death is coming gives way more weight to today, doesn't it? I want to ask us a question related to this idea of death bringing meaning to life. And the question is, what role does death play in your life? That might seem like an odd question because, on the one hand, how does death play any role in our lives? And I want to suggest that death does play a role in our life. It's just a matter of how aware we are of the role that it's playing. For many of us, we are consciously and unconsciously holding the awareness of our mortality at arm's length, whether it's through comforts and conveniences, or just staying busy, indulging ourselves, or depriving ourselves, or everywhere in between. Most of us have developed some ways of putting off at arm's length or even further the awareness that we are going to die. For some of us, though, death has shown up on our doorstep and has made itself known in a very unwelcome and immediate way. About 8 years ago, my brother-in-law got a cancer diagnosis, my sister's husband. It was a rare cancer, and the prognosis was really uncertain, and he began his cancer battle. At that time in my life, I was, compared to prior years, I was really unhealthy. I had played soccer all through college, and so I had grown accustomed to chasing the ball around 2, 3, 4 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, and training for games. And I could eat 7 or 8 waffles a day at the cafeteria in college if I wanted to and still burn it off. I just was torching calories, and so it wasn't hard to stay lean and mean and fit. But then after college, a couple things began to happen. One of them was acute anxiety hit me for the first time in my life in a way that was almost debilitating. And along with that, some depression. Also, post-college life, I discovered wasn't all that I thought it was going to be. And so I had a lot of disillusionment. Those are some of the reasons why I let myself go in terms of health and well-being. I'm certainly responsible for those choices. But those are some of the factors at play that led me to neglect my well-being. And as I watched my brother-in-law go through his cancer battle, I began to see that I was neglecting key things in my own life that I had the ability to influence that would contribute to how long I was able to be here with my family, my wife and my 2 awesome boys. And it was like somebody hit me over the head with a hammer. And I woke up and I said, death is coming. Back in those days, I didn't articulate it this way, but this was the effect. I realized, oh my gosh, death is coming for all of us, and we don't know when. And here's my 36-year-old brother-in-law in a fight for his life. And I'm not in that kind of fight for my life, but I am certainly not doing what I could be doing to stay around with my family as long as possible. It kicked my butt into gear so fast. I went from almost wholesale neglect of my well-being to a deep commitment to improving my well-being. And in the course of a year, went from 250 to 190, got fitter and according to, all of the usual metrics. I also got psychologically healthier too. My anxiety and my depression, my experience of those things improved quite a bit as all those other things started changing too. That was one of the most significant ways in which my awareness of my mortality has shaped my behavior and has shaped the priority that I place on things day to day. It drove home the fact that I am going to die, but I wasn't dead yet. And there were things that I could do, actions I could take to improve my quality of life so that I was more available for the relationships and responsibilities that mattered most to me. That's an example from my life. And maybe as I'm sharing that story, your own stories are coming to mind as you think about loved ones, friends. Maybe it's been your own journey, your own near-death experience that has brought the reality of your mortality front and center in your heart and your mind. Maybe you're currently in a battle for your life. Maybe you are actually in a life and death battle because of sickness or some other cause. What role is death playing in your life? Are you holding it at arm's length, hoping that it'll go away? We all know, of course, that it's not going away, and it is coming, and it's just a matter of when and how. How can we use that awareness to motivate us to live an even better life now, so that minimally, when we die, we have fewer, if any, regrets? But even more than that, how can we let the awareness of our mortality drive us and motivate us to be the people that we can be now, to begin moving toward those big goals that we've had in our hearts and minds, but we keep putting off because it's easy for one day just to roll over into the next and into the next and into the next. We're accustomed to thinking of our mortality as the ultimate liability and doing everything we can to avoid it. I want to suggest, though, that we can see our mortality as a tremendously powerful tool. What are you putting off? Who can you be that you're not becoming? What is your purpose? No matter your relationship to death, I encourage you to see it for what it is, and then to begin to figure out how you can upgrade it. How you can pull death closer to you in a way that motivates you to live more powerfully now. We are going to die, but we're not dead yet. This has been the first episode of Andrew Petty is Dying, a one-of-a-kind production of the Graveyard Group, and it sets the stage for a transformational, life-affirming journey that we'll take together in the weeks and months ahead. We'll tap into the power of our mortality to become the people we were made to be and live the lives we were made to live. That is a journey worth taking, and I hope you'll come with me. In future episodes, I'll share inspirational stories and perspectives to help you upgrade your relationship with death and use it to your full advantage in life. And I'll share conversations with fascinating people who are striving to bring their best into the world so that we can learn from their example. Think of this podcast as a new part of how you do life, returning to it regularly to freshen your resolve to bring your best into the world. Subscribe to Andrew Petty is Dying today and share it with your friends. It's going to be an amazing journey. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.